You're listening to the Intercoastal Podcast, part of the Destination Marketing Podcast Network. Welcome to the Intercoastal Podcast, where we explore the stories, adventures, and rich culture that makes the Lowcountry unforgettable. This is a place to find your Intercoastal. I'm Daquan Mickens, and today I'm joined by Junior Delatorre, your local fisher, your local photographer, anything Beaufort Junior represents in a nutshell. We're looking forward to this episode to kind of get to know what he does, how he got to Beaufort, and his everyday life of fishing on the water, anything Lowcountry. So welcome to the show, Junior.
Yeah, guys, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to hop on the podcast. Beaufort means a lot to me, and any way I can shed some light on it, I'd love to do so.
When we first met, I was fascinated at how you got to Beaufort and your story of just where you got to today. So could you explain, when did you first hear about Beaufort, or like why did you come to Beaufort?
Yeah, so we kind of have to go back probably even before I was even born. So my grandpa was over 30 years Marine Corps veteran, served in Vietnam. So my mom actually lived in Beaufort for, I think it was about 20 years before I was even born.
Oh, wow.
So she'd known about Beaufort, she'd seen Beaufort grow. Well, she left right before I was born down to Florida. Mm-hmm. And then when I was about 2 or 3, we actually moved back to Beaufort. So pretty much have been here ever since. And it's pretty much all I know, all my memories, all my, growing up is all just running around in the marsh or running around in the woods or just being on the water in general. And just, most of all my family's here too. So that's a big blessing. So yeah, it's kind of all I know, really, to be honest. But it's a good place. It's a good place to, if it's going to be the only place that I know, it's a good place to know.
Yeah, it is. I would say, like, being able to grow up here, when I first got here, it was an adjustment, kind of going to that slower pace, get adjusted type of thing. But once I actually got acclimated, I loved it. It was amazing. I tell everybody it's like a vacation every time I step out of my house because it's so amazing.
Oh, yeah. It's funny. It's like growing up, you go to high school and the kids are like, oh, I can't wait to get out. I can't wait to go to a city or to Atlanta or Charlotte or Columbia. Mm-hmm. But I never really felt that way. I always kind of enjoyed it. I think just with anywhere, you make the best of it. Then it was a lot slower. I say that with a little grain of salt because the Beaufort that I know 10 years ago is a little bit different from the Beaufort now, which is awesome, right? Mm-hmm. The growth is great for everybody. Thankfully, with the stuff that I do a lot of traveling and work on the road. And it's so nice to be able to be on the way back and being so happy to come back home. A lot of people don't have that, right? So I cross over the Broad River Bridge and I always get that little warm feeling saying, I'm back home. I see the marsh, see the sunset, the no-see-ums, all that stuff, and it's a blessing. It's a beautiful place. And it's a pleasure to call it home for me.
And a lot of times we do hear that people, they're like, oh, I went to high school here, decided to go to, I don't know, they'll say like North Carolina or I went to Atlanta, like you said. And for some reason, I just found myself being called back to Beaufort. So if you look in our last couple episodes or episodes early on in the podcast, we hear so many times, I moved to Chicago, lived there for 15 years, but then came back to Beaufort and started a business. Yeah. So Beaufort just has that calling to bring people back to it.
Yeah, no, I've mentioned it to Rob Wells before that, Beaufort's a place for either 48 hours or 48 years, right? There's no in between almost. Yep. It's a perfect place to settle down for your family or for kids or great schools or just recreation outside. Just it has an awesome place to grow a family, or if you just want to spend a weekend, right? It has a perfect place for that. Food, people. You have the Southern hospitality that makes it so great. And, we're on the water, we're on the coast. So it's kind of, you miss that hustle and bustle of maybe a Charleston or Savannah, but you get a more laid back low country feel here in Beaufort, which I think that's what makes it so special.
And those two aren't too far away. You could easily take a day trip to experience Charleston or experience Savannah. It's perfectly in between. There's no, I can't do either one, or I'd have to stay in Beaufort, which Beaufort is the point of coming when you do visit. But a lot of people who grow up here or they visit here, they're like, you know what, let's take a day trip and go to these other locations. But Beaufort has a lot to keep you busy in the area as well. Yeah,
exactly, man. It's an awesome spot. If it's the food, if it's the people, if it's just being on the water, right? Mm-hmm. And the nice thing about Beaufort is all 4 seasons are great, right? You don't have this, you have these places where, it's so nice in the summer. Mm-hmm. Well, I want a place that's nice all year round, right? So in Beaufort is that, even this year, right? We get the snow, we get the sunshine, we get the humidity. We have all seasons, which is an awesome thing to have.
Can you explain to the listeners what you do for us here at Beaufort, the CVB, and kind of how you found your love for photography and videography?
Yeah, so for you guys, for the CVB, I do a lot of the video and photography for you guys and help you guys out. Just like going back, shed a good light on Beaufort and South Carolina in general. And for me, it's, if I didn't have this in my backyard, I don't know if I would be where I'm at today. You know, it's the Lowcountry doesn't make it hard to show off because it's so beautiful, so pretty day in, day out. And thankfully, you know, like I said, I've been to a lot of places, but nothing beats a Beaufort sunset or a sunrise. It's to this day. And I have buddies that come into town from all across the world and they love it here. I'm batting 100% from bringing friends to Beaufort because, they all want to move here, which is a good thing for everybody, right? Kind of how I got into all of this. So I was at Beaufort High, right, across the street. And I initially, I went from Battery Creek, which is another high school in the area, and I transferred over. And I was always a big sports guy, right? I played baseball here. I played baseball in college. And so when I went to Beaufort High, they actually, you had to take an art class. I was going into 10th grade and they're giving me these lists of options, right? Art class, and I can't draw. I can barely write my name right. So I had to throw that one out the window. And then the next one was like a drama class. And I did not want to be on stage. That's not what I wanted to do. Maybe work me on a camera or behind the lights or something like that. But, and then the third option, which was the first time Beaufort High had ever offered it, was a video production class. And I still remember the teacher, Mr. Matthew Kruger. He was a recent SCAD graduate. So he was a young guy, hip, that when the guidance counselor mentioned that, it really grabbed my attention. So I was like, well, can you explain that a little bit more? Because at that point, I had never even really picked up a camera except for my mom's little disposable, the ones that you wind and you have to take the Walgreens.
You take the film out and throw the camera away.
Yeah, literally. You have to wait a week and you better hope you have some good shots. But my mom was infamous, side note, of never returning them in. We just have closets full of these disposable cameras. But she explains this class and she's like, so there's not much about it. There's not even a syllabus yet for it. But we do know that we got a grant from the state and there's 12 kids in the class. You guys get cameras and you basically just video your friends and make videos. So I'm like, that's what I want to do. The least amount of work with the most amount of time in the hallways. That's what I'm trying to do. And so I was like, sign me up for that. And to this day, I look back at I took video production 1 and 2. And it was my favorite class in high school. And, in high school, it's very cliquey, right? You have your sports guys, you have your arts guys, you have this and that. And me going into this class, I was really the only sports guy. There's a lot of artsy people signing up for it. So one, it taught me two, is like, it's okay to accept other groups of people, right? In high school, you don't really get that. You don't really get that until you get off to college. So, you had to mesh, you had to collaborate with your classmates to make these movies, to make these videos, to make these projects. And Mr. Kruger did such a great job of allowing a great environment for that. And, I look back and I can't say that I remember the techniques or anything crazy that I'm using today, but more importantly, which this actually never changes, is how to tell a good story. And I remember Mr. Kruger, he used to, this is before TikTok, Instagram, any of this. He was like, you can tell a story in 15 seconds or you can tell it over 3 hours. There's still these main points to make a great story. And I've never really forgot that. And it doesn't matter if it's a 10, 15 second little Instagram reel or if it's, an hour and a half documentary film that I work on. These are the points of a story, and this is how you tell a good story. And so I look back at those times at Beaufort High, and obviously we had cameras in our hand. We kind of had a hall pass, so that was super fun. But I look back at those times and just using those little tidbits of information. I still talk to that teacher to this day, which is really cool. I still talk to a lot of those classmates to this day. But after that, I kind of dropped the camera for a while and went off to play college baseball. And if anyone's played college sports, obviously, you do not have a lot of free time whatsoever. It's baseball and it's school and it's working out. And that's what my life was for 4 years. All throughout the summer, I'd leave for travel ball and play collegiate summer league up in Virginia or Connecticut. So even in the summertime, I didn't really have time to even fish. So I didn't really pick up a camera for a while when I was playing ball and played the pro ball thing for a little bit. And then once baseball kind of wrapped up, I graduated. I had a lot of free time on my hands that I've never had before. And that's when I started fishing again a lot, right? And I fished all throughout high school. You live in Beaufort, that's kind of like the first things that you do, right? For my first job was a shrimper on that gate fish seafood. So it's almost a part of everyday life, right? And so, I got back into fishing and fly fishing a lot. And what's funny is, I'd come back home to my roommates and I'd be like, man, you'll never guess what I saw out there today. Like I saw a dolphin strand feeding, or I saw sea turtles, or I saw this and that. And they'd be like, yeah, right, dude. Yeah. You're just talking a big talk, right? And I was like, oh, well, I'll prove it to you guys. So like saved up my money and bought a little cheap GoPro. And it really started from that, a little cheap little GoPro and just recording everyday adventures in the marsh on my kayak or on my paddleboard and just fishing. And that was really it. There was nothing complex about it. It was really just documenting. I look back at those videos and they're super raw and they're super funny, but it's funny. It's like you have to take those steps to, to get where you're at today with anything. And what started as, hey, look, this is what I saw. I'm gonna prove it to you guys. This is what I saw, or to my family, to actually being like, wow, I actually really enjoyed looking back and seeing these things and looking at it now. think that it would transgress into what it is now.
Yeah.
But slowly from that little small camera, I saved up and got a little Sony camera. I remember when I first bought that, I was like, man, I'm never going to financially recover from this. Right? I was like, this $700 is going to break me down for the rest of my life. But looking back, that was probably the coolest decision, best decision that I could make, is just taking that leap and doing it. And, with that little camera, I just took it everywhere. Took it in the marsh with me, took it on my paddle board, got it wet way too many times. But, just started making these little clips, these little videos, these little YouTube videos. And eventually it's when kind of Instagram, and then that kind of transformed into TikTok, which is funny how social media can create something that's so cool. And, I just started making these little bite-sized videos that people could watch, and, I could hold their attention for, and maybe put some cool music behind it. And there wasn't a lot of people at the time really showing the Lowcountry off in that light. You see places like the Keys or the Bahamas or all these crazy blue water places. There wasn't a lot of people at least that I was watching in my circle, that you could see the Lowcountry in that light. So, I just put a big emphasis on that. I was shooting what I could shoot, which is stuff at home in my backyard. Yeah. And, that slowly but surely started to gain a lot of traction. And, thankfully, and I'm super grateful for it, companies started reaching out to be like, hey, would you mind shooting this video for us? Or can we send you this? And you do a little product thing on this. And it kind of grew into what it is today, which is so wild, because then I'm like, people want to pay me to make a video about fishing. Like, is this a dream coming? My dreaming pinch me. And so, it kind of just slowly turned into that. And what started as like mainly just social, social stuff and YouTube, eventually got me this opportunity now where I'm traveling the world filming for ESPN, doing billfish tournaments. Yeah. And I'm entering my 4th year doing that, which has been so awesome, because, growing up, I never had the opportunity to go offshore. We were always either walking the Broad River Bridge or like walking in the marsh or kayaks. And, we didn't even have a boat. So to see a different side of fishing and a different side of outdoors. And, it's funny, it's like, I would have never had that opportunity if I didn't get that GoPro almost 10 years ago, right? Yeah. And so, that's what it's kind of led me in today to now shooting on ESPN and being able to see some of the coolest places in the world, but still brings a smile to my face when I come back home to Beaufort, for sure.
That story is just amazing, just to see how something so small, like you're just like, let me pick up this camera and just decide to get back into it. And it snowballs into your career now, and everything that you've done. That's why people say, you never give up, or you never think not to do something you dreamed of or you want to, because it's something like that. You're literally doing something you've done your whole life, and you're getting paid to do it, and you're doing it for fun. Yeah, man, for sure. And I never take it for granted. I think about it almost every single day, which is funny, but I look back at that, and even going back to earlier what we were talking about, if I wasn't in Beaufort, if I didn't grow up in Beaufort, if I didn't have something so beautiful to show off, maybe I wouldn't be where I'm at today. Yeah. So Beaufort plays such a big part in that. And I never forget that. It's a cliche thing to say, oh, never forget where you came from. Yeah. But I've never left. And this place means so much to me. And everywhere I go, people ask where you're from. And I say it with pride. I say it with my chest, because it's such a beautiful place for me. And I don't think I would be where I'm at today without it. And just as a man, as a person, but also as an artist or as a videographer, photographer. We said it before the podcast, Beaufort makes it super easy because it's so beautiful. And I'm just lucky. I'm grateful that it's given me the opportunities that I have, and to work with you guys to just show it off in a different way, right? Yep. And let other people know that maybe not just locally, but through magazines and through commercials and through all this other stuff, that Beaufort is this awesome place. Yeah. And it's worth a visit for sure. Definitely. And those who know about Beaufort, I don't know if you get this experience, but if you say like, oh, I'm from Beaufort, they're like, oh, you're so lucky that you get to live in Beaufort, or you're from Beaufort. Yeah. In a beautiful town or amazing place. Yeah, it's funny. It's like, I remember, probably like 10 years ago, you'd say Beaufort, and Beaufort was still, still small, but even then it was almost even smaller, right? And they'd be like, Beaufort. Oh, near Hilton Head, in between Savannah, in between Charleston. Now it's crazy. Every time I mention Beaufort, it doesn't matter where I'm at in the world. I was down in the Bahamas 2 weeks ago in Walker's Key. It's a tiny rock. The only thing there is one marina, boats. There's not even housing. Yeah. And I'm walking the docks, and I think 3 of the 5 boats on one of the slips, they're either from Savannah, Charleston, or they dock in Beaufort, which is the craziest thing in the world. So every time I mention Beaufort, we know Beaufort, we love Beaufort, we enjoy everything about it. It's obviously a great place to fish, but it's a great place to visit for family and stuff like that. So it's becoming more of a household name, which is such a cool thing, because me in high school would have never imagined that I could mention Beaufort in some crazy place and be like, oh yeah, we love that place, or
we love Hunting Island. We love downtown Beaufort. We love the waterfront park. So it's just a cool thing to see. I would have never imagined it in a million years that it would be where it's at now. But you guys play a huge part in that, and you guys do a great job just showing it off in such a good light, which, probably is to attest to why it's grown, the way it has.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. I remember when I first started in the sales industry, and I would tell people, "Oh yeah, Beaufort," and they were kind of like, "Huh, Beaufort who?" And then now every show I go to, they're like, "Oh, that's Beaufort, and that beautiful Beaufort," and they're saying, "Love Beaufort." So it's pretty cool to see the growth of not mainstream attention, but just attention to Beaufort and how it has grown as far as people knowing who it is.
Oh yeah. I mean, just this morning I was in the coffee shop, and, I was talking to a couple that was literally moving here from Charleston. Yeah. And it's crazy. Me and Rob Wells talk about it sometimes. It's the more and more people you meet, the more and more people are moving to Beaufort, not just to visit, not just to hang out and stay here for a weekend, but trying to start a life here, start a family here, because, maybe the hustle and bustle of Charleston or Savannah or Charlotte, this is kind of that hub. It's the best of both worlds, right? Yeah. Small town, it's on the water. It's a beautiful place. And it's like, I would have never imagined that either, where you're talking to all these people that are moving here from like a Charleston or from a Savannah or from, in Atlanta. But it's happening every single day, which is it's a cool thing to see.
So as we're wrapping up, what is your favorite story, not just about Beaufort, but your fishing story as far as like on the water? I know I can say on the water, and 50,000, I know I see it on the face.
Yeah.
50,000 memories just flooded your head. So
wow, that's a tough one.
Yeah. What is your favorite Beaufort memory as far as like on the water?
Man, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. I'd say the first thing that comes to mind is Bay Street Outfitters downtown. They used to hold this tournament called the Cobia on Fly Invitational, which I'm not sure if the listeners know, but we have a special species of cobia that comes up the Broad River and they come to spawn. And DNR found this out less than 5 years ago. Okay. So this species of fish, right? My grandpa used to fish for it in the 80s, right? Oh, wow. And there's pictures of him holding these 100-pound cobia that they've caught in the Broad River. But at the time, they didn't know that these were actually female, right? Female cobia that had bellies full of eggs and roe, and they're coming upstream to spawn. So this is like this super special fish, and cobia isn't an inshore fish. Cobia is an offshore fish. So it's, you have these offshore species, like something like a mahi-mahi or a marlin or something coming inshore, which is the craziest thing. And I tell people that everywhere I go, and people are like, what? No way, you have to show me pictures because they don't believe it. So it's a fish that's been around. It's been doing this for a long time. Bay Street holds a tournament. It's a catch and release tournament. It's only fly fishing. It's only flats boats, and it's an invitational. So they just cap it at 20. So you don't put too much pressure on fish or anything like that. Yeah. And I was able to fish it with one of my best friends, who's a captain guide in the area, Rob Alexander, which is Green Heron Adventures here in Beaufort. And it's a 2-day tournament, and we were able to fish and we were able to win it. And to win that tournament, which we're fishing against a lot of really competitive people that really know what they're doing, way more than I know what I'm doing. And thankfully I had Rob there. But, to catch a species of fish that is special for Beaufort, that they don't do this in any place, anywhere in the world, where they come inshore to spawn. And there's this little river that they come to do this in, and to fish this tournament and to win it. There's so many other memories that probably I could probably mention, but that's kind of the first one, because I think about like, wow, I wonder what my grandpa would think, because he was fishing for this same fish 20 years ago in this same river. Him maybe not knowing why they were doing it, but still doing it. And to be able to win that and then bring attention to the cobia species, because in the recent years, DNR, which is, Department of Natural Resources, have put a limit, or basically a X, saying you can't keep these fish because this is a special kind of fish and the numbers have dropped so bad in the past. So to bring awareness to it, to raise up money, to donate prints, or do whatever I can do to create funding for the conservation of the cobia in Beaufort County. It's kind of a mix of all that, right? It kind of brings it all to the forefront, brings it all to the center, right? Because I think about, like I said, my grandpa, I think about this fish that's so special to this area that maybe people might not know about, but to actually being able to give back and help with the conservation of this species. So I'd probably have to say winning that cobia on Fly Invitational through Bay Street was probably one of my coolest memories. And it's cool. Like I said, it's catch and release. So you don't have to worry about, the fish coming to the scales and, not living. They're all released healthy. But it's probably winning that cobia on Fly tournament. I know that there's so many. I could probably go through baseball stuff to fishing stuff to everything. But it's funny. It's like every time I go out, there's always something. There's always something that I see that's new. And I've been here for, like I said, ever since I can remember, 2 or 3 years old. But every time I go out, I always take something back with me where it can just be that sunset looks a little bit different, still beautiful, but it's just a little bit different, or the marsh just looks a little bit different, or whatever it is. There's always something that I'm like, man, I really enjoy being here. This really makes, you don't even have to catch anything.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes Beaufort so special.
I agree. Every day here is just unique in its own day.
Yeah.
Like you said, you'll take something with you every time you come. Like, that's why people come to Beaufort year after year, because it's not going to be the same every year. You're going to get a different memory. You're going to get a different adventure everywhere you go. So
yeah, and now too, it's like I remember growing up where you'd have maybe like the shrimp festival and the water and the water fest, and that was really the really two big things that you'd really have. Now with you have restaurant week, you have the oyster festival, the shrimp, you have all these other different stuff that's bringing attention to Beaufort, which is great, but also giving something to do for the people that are visiting, or even families, young kids, where we maybe didn't have that growing up. Where I think you guys have done a good job with that as well, where you guys are creating these festivals, creating these things where it gets eyes on Beaufort, but it's such a good time. It's good, clean fun.
Yeah.
And it's Beaufort has always done these things, but maybe not outside. People outside of Beaufort County might not have known about it. Where you can go to the oyster festival, like past January, and people are coming in town just to go to the festival, which is such a cool thing, which must be a cool feeling for you guys as well.
Yeah, it is a cool feeling, because being in this office, we have people of different ages. So their kids have graduated Beaufort High, and now they're graduating college, or they just started college. And me being younger, I'm looking to start a family, and seeing everybody be able to come to Beaufort and raise their kids in Beaufort. That's kind of the goal, is to give them that Beaufort lifestyle. And no other better life than the Beaufort lifestyle.
Yeah, 100%, man.
Provide.
100%. And it's, like I said, I think it's a great place to raise a family. And, the things that make, obviously Beaufort's changing. You said day in, day out, it's something different. But I think the things that are core Beaufort aren't changing. And that's and I think people are seeing that now. Yeah. And I think that's what, like I said, that's what kind of makes it really, really special. Especially special to me, for sure.
Yeah, especially since you're from here.
Yeah, it's cool to see. It's just cool to see the transformation of it, right? And like I said, there's the things that are Beaufort that won't change and haven't changed, which is, like I said, what makes it great. Yeah. But the things that, are forward moving is, I just love to see it, because I would have never imagined, 10, 15 years ago, some of the stuff that's happening in Beaufort now, which is such a cool thing to see. Yeah,
I agree. But thank you so much for being on the podcast, Junior. Could you tell the listeners where they can find you and find your work?
Oh, yeah, for sure. So on Instagram, on all socials, I'm Snapback JR. It's pretty much all Lowcountry stuff, some offshore stuff thrown in there, but yeah, a lot of Lowcountry cool fishing stuff. So if you like fishing, check it out. If you don't like fishing, maybe I post some Marsh stuff too, some local stuff. But yeah, you guys can find me on that and YouTube and check it out.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on today's podcast and just sharing your passion for the area, and not just your passion, but your history here in the area. When you think of the quintessential Beaufort kid, that's you.
I appreciate that, man. It means a lot.
And that's a compliment.
Yeah, it is.
Because a lot of people, when they think of Beaufort, they think of fishing, they think of Marsh, they think of the landscape, and that's everything that you do and encompass and who you are.
Oh man, I appreciate it. That's probably the best compliment that you can give me, and I'll continue to show off Beaufort and be that Beaufort spokesperson as much as I can, and just continue to shed a positive light on Beaufort, because I think it deserves it. She's beautiful, man. She's an awesome place, and I can't wait to raise my family here, and it's a place that I don't think I'll ever leave, man. It's a great spot.
Yep, that's the biggest compliment you can give to Beaufort. But thank you for listening to this episode of the Intercoastal Podcast. We hope we've inspired you to find your intercoastal wherever that journey takes you. You can follow us on social media at visit_BeaufortSC on Instagram or at BeaufortSC on Facebook. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a review. And share our podcast with others who love the Lowcountry. We'll talk to y'all next time. This has been another episode of the Intercoastal Podcast, hosted by Daquan Mickens and the team at Visit Beaufort, Port Royal, and the Sea Islands. Produced by Revolt.